This morning in our Bible study with the kids, we read this amazing story found in Mark chapter 11. It says, "The next day as he left for Bethany, Jesus was feeling hungry. He noticed a leafy fig tree in the distance, so he walked over to see if there was any fruit on it. But there was none, only leaves, for it wasn't yet the season for bearing fruit. Jesus spoke to the fig tree and said, 'No one will ever eat from you again.' And the disciples overheard him." It goes on to say that the next day in the morning they passed by the fig tree that Jesus spoke to, and it was completely withered from the roots up. Peter remembered and said to him, "Teacher, look, that's the fig tree you cursed. It's now all shriveled up and dead." Jesus replied, "Let the faith of God be in you." Of course, he goes on to talk about having faith that can move mountains. But I said to the kids, doesn't it seem unreasonable that Jesus would curse this fig tree because it didn't produce fruit out of season? I mean, in the natural, it wasn't the time for bearing fruit, so it would seem very reasonable that it didn't have fruit on its branches, and yet Jesus cursed it. I think there's a lesson to be learned here, because the truth is you and I are trees. We are trees of righteousness, and so we should be bearing fruit of righteousness. But the point is we should be bearing fruit of righteousness in and out of season. Well, what does that mean? Well, the fruit of righteousness is, of course, the fruit of the Spirit, things like joy and peace. And we live in a time right now where people are afraid, and there's not a whole lot of peace, not a whole lot of joy going around. But as Christians, we live in the world, we're not of the world, but we are of the kingdom of God. So in this season, we should be still bearing fruit of righteousness, joy and peace, regardless of the circumstance around us. And that takes faith. That's why Jesus addresses faith, because we have to have faith in who God is, that He is who He says He is, He can do what He says He can do, that we are who He says we are, and we can do what He says we can do. That is genuine faith, understanding, believing that, and walking it out every day. So I want to encourage you, be in faith, be in amazing, mountain-moving faith, that no matter the season you're going through, you can believe God, believe who He is, and believe who you are in Him, and live from that place. Bear fruit of righteousness in and out of season.